Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Honolulu Museum of Art's Doris Duke Theatre. My name is Sarah, I'm the theater manager and programmer. Thank you all so much for joining us for the 15th annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival. This festival would not be possible without our sponsors. First and foremost, our major sponsor, Aqua Aston Hospitality. They've been a long-time sponsor of this festival, and really without them, this wouldn't be possible. I'd also love to give a shout out to our media sponsor, the Surf News Network, and Gary Keeley. Thank you for helping us spread the word on this festival. And just a little bit about today's film. The title, for those of you who don't know, the title is like, wait, isn't that a Kalapana song? Because it is a Kalapana song, because Kalapana did the original soundtrack for this film. Gary Capo, who is also here with us, right there, yes. The director of the film, he did a beautiful restoration. We'll talk a little bit more about that after the film, so please do stick around for a little Q&A. Now, before we start the film, courtesy of Kyle Metcalf and the Surf Trivia Guy, we have a trivia question for one of Hawaii's own surf coins, and it is related to today's film. I'm sure you've seen all our promotional images have had him, and he is one of the stars of this film. So raise your hand first, try not to shout it out. Can someone tell me what Button's legal first name is? Right there in the white shirt, you were first. You, yep.
Montgomery.
Yes, that is correct. Here you are. Congratulations. So you'll be seeing a lot of Montgomery Buttons in this film, and really, again, beautiful restoration. Gary, you did an amazing job, and I'm so glad you were able to do so. And now, without further ado, oh, I forgot to tell you that we have a short film that screens right before. It's called Surf Wars, which Gary also created. So fun, so cool. I really love it. It's an animated surf space opera. Very excited to share it with everyone. So without further ado, please enjoy Surf Wars and Many Classic Moments. Thank you to the audience. And so Gary, for you, this is our second time doing a Q&A, so I'll probably have some repeat questions.
I probably forgot.
No, it's okay. So, really, this was shot a while back. I do want to start with how you got, this is like the only surf film in your repertoire and in your long history as a cinematographer. How did you get started on this project way back when?
Well, it was the only surf film I made, and then I went on to do other types of films. But I was a lifelong surfer. And I was just looking for a way to keep surfing. I was not quite good enough to be a pro. Of course, didn't make any money back then in the circuit, and or with the films either. But anyway, it was just I was a photographer and had film classes in college. It was sort of the natural next step. So. And I could keep, come up to Hawaii and keep surfing. It was that's about it. That's all the motivation.
That's the motivation. Mark, when he was here with us last time, shared that he was just surfing one day and you just showed up on the beach and started recording everyone. Is that an accurate portrayal of account?
Yeah, it is accurate. I just showed up with, I bought a bunch of camera equipment over in LA and then just flew over here and showed up on the beach. I mean, there's a lot of, it was a thing with a lot of photographers, mostly still photographers, handful of people with 16 millimeter equipment. And we would just show up every morning and you'd drive along the North Shore and look for the cars that you knew who owned them, and they're out off the wall or they're go up to Velzyland, depending on the conditions. And then you just go to the beach and start focusing in on people there. I had no, experience with shooting surfing before that, and I was just drawn to the Hawaiians at the time. As you can see, it's heavily Hawaiian-oriented, the film. And there were, the Australians were a big deal back then and all that.
Australians?
Yeah, no, exactly. So I was just drawn to the style of the Hawaiians. So I just end up chasing them around, and then, you know, what's that guy down here, you know, following us all the time. So they end up meeting, you know, the guys. Really miss them, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's sort of how that's an accurate portrayal. Yeah.
And, you know, looking back on it, I mean, it seems like it was you were kind of just accepted into the group. I mean, it seems like you got really in with, you know, people like Mark and people like Buttons. Is that how you felt when when they started being like, oh, why don't you come and join us? Or
yeah, no, they seemed to accept me pretty readily. I mean, they were so young, you know, they were 17, 18, and you know, so I started shooting that film, and then we'd bring them up to the house and show them the results. You know, we'd break out the projector on, you know, Friday night or whatever, and there'd be a smoke-filled room, and we'd be, so they'd get excited. And then,
it adds to the lighting. And can you talk a little bit, and I'm taking a question from the audience from last time, but how you built your rig to shoot in the water on film?
Well, I cut a piece of foam, shaped it to the dimensions I needed, and then layered fiberglass over it. Kept layering fiberglass till it got thick enough, and then dug it out.
And it was like 40, 50 pounds?
Well, then I was using a Millikan camera, which was like, you know, it's like they used to strap them on jets, because they would shoot really high speed film, 16 millimeter, and they're pretty rugged, but they're very heavy, and then the 28-volt battery to make it run. So yeah, the rig ends up being pretty heavy, fairly compact, like that. I mean, not GoPro standards, but it's you know, and really very heavy, like 40 pounds.
And you know, it's always interesting to watch surf footage, and you know, for me, having programmed this for a while and having seen so much, and especially seeing more, you had some really beautiful waves here, but also seeing like the dangers of that. And you know, it's not, when you're watching this film, you have to realize it's not just the surfers who are in those conditions, it's also whoever's holding the camera. How did it feel like, I mean, you had experience as a surfer, but was it a weird, and it was your first time shooting surf, was it a weird transition for you? Did you find any difficulties, like being in the waves, popping up, popping out, the safety aspect of it?
Yeah, you know, I wondered nowadays how I survived a lot of it. You know, I mean, I think it's more dangerous to be filming than it is to be surfing, because you're just like right there, and you can't get out of the way.
And you don't want to be a speed bump.
Sure, yeah. So I mean, you'd be, you know, lugging that 40-pound camera around. You're inside a pipe. And,
did you wear a helmet?
No. You can't. You couldn't. You know, down this high in the water, so you see everybody scrambling, and you go, oh shit, you know, kind of where you're at, and you know, wait, I'm in the impact zone. So then you just start kicking. Yeah, I lost that camera like twice.
Wow.
In the surf, and then came back days later and dove for it.
And it was still there?
It was smashed. The front was smashed, took water, but it actually, I sent it off to a guy in California, and he would fix it and get it back. So
that's amazing.
But I never got hurt. I mean, just other than the, you know, what everybody gets, the reef scrapes and staph infection and that sort of thing. But
just put a scratch. And you know, can you talk a little bit about the restoration, though? How you restored this film?
Yes. Well, the negative was actually a positive, because it was shot in an Ektachrome, but it was in a lab, and toward the end of the film, I run out of money, and so I brought on a distributor that the manager of Kalapana had suggested to this company, Makaha Sportswear at the time, to come in and finish it up, bring in enough money to make the distribution. So anyway, we needed the money to finish it. So they set up all the distribution, and then they ordered all the prints from the lab, which I didn't know, because I had the contacts and the account at the lab, and then, but I paid for all the processing and everything. But anyway, they ordered all the prints, and I thought they were paying for the prints, but they weren't. They were putting it on my account, which I didn't have any money to pay. So they took it, they distributed and everything, and then I get a bill from the lab, and I can't pay this for these prints, that's very expensive. And anyway, then they kind of skipped out, and then the lab held the negative, so I couldn't get it. But I went on to do other stuff, and I just sort of almost just whatever, you know, didn't really think about it that much. Didn't keep me up at night. I actually didn't really care what happened because I was off on other endeavors. But then I wanted it back, and then I called the lab, and they were going out of business. It was a lab that had been in business since 1919 in Hollywood, but they were just 16 millimeter lab. So they were going out, and I had a relationship with the owner. He called me. It was the son of the founders, but one time he said, we're shutting shop. We're throwing everything that's in the vaults. We're just tossing it into the dumpster. But then he said, but if you come up with $600, I'll give you your material.
Hostage negotiations.
So, anyway, I met him in the alley and behind the lab, and he handed me a bunch of boxes, and I gave him the money. And anyway, so then it sat around for years and years till we got into the digital world, and so I transferred. I didn't know it was in the boxes, and it wasn't the whole film. It was only about, 70%. So I kind of cobbled it all together. I mean, you can see the quality varies in the restoration, but and then just, I was able to put it on digital and cut it on the computer over time, in my spare time. So anyway, that's how.
It's a beautiful restoration. I'm glad you paid that hostage fee for the film. My last question before I open it up to the audience is about surfboards, because when that came to me, I was just like, what is this? I love it. This is so cool. Can you just talk a little bit about the inspiration behind surfboards for you?
Well, I wanted to add an animated section to the film. In the original release, it was in the body of the film, not played at the beginning, but I like it at the beginning now. But so it was just another moment of the many classic moments. Well, my idea of many classic moments was, I sort of stole the idea from 5 Summer Stories, where they brought it back every year and they changed the stories. Not all of them, but just some of them. Sort of, and that was kind of from Disney's Fantasia, which his idea with Fantasia was, because it's a segmented chapter film, and every year they were going to update that film. They never did until like 2000. But anyway, that was the idea. Every year was going to add a sequence or something. So they're all, the Surf Wars was just one moment in there. And the idea was that was the same year that Star Wars came out, so thought that was a great title, and we just, that's kind of, I wrote the script for it, and then I took it out to Art Center and corralled some students to do the illustrations and the animation, and then corralled my friends to paint the cells. It was all hand-painted cells back then, so, which was labor-intensive. So, did that answer the question?
Yeah. No, that was great. Any questions from the audience? Yes, right here.
How did you get Kalapana involved? Tell us about that.
Caleb? No, I was working with their manager of Kalapana was named Ed Guy, and he owned a restaurant in Wahiawa called the Country Meeting Steakhouse. And when it was first opening, I was driving by and I needed a job, and it was perfect to be a waiter at this steakhouse. It was sort of like a chart house, but it was up in Wahiawa. And anyway, got a job there working as a waiter, so I could film in the day and go wait tables at night to buy film. And he was their manager, and I got to know him, and he knew what I was doing, and he kind of 2 and 2 together, and hey, this would be a great vehicle. And so that's how we came together, and It actually did work out really well for both of us, I think.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions from the audience? Right there.
How'd you get away with no rating on the animated film?
No rating?
Yeah, shouldn't it be an X rating?
Because of
Anybody want to tell them?
the marijuana?
Mermaid?
The mermaids.
The mermaid?
Mermaid.
Huh, good question. We fly under the radar with these films back then, and I really don't have an answer for that.
We got away with it. We got away with it. That's what it was.
Just giving you a hard time.
Any other questions from the audience?
Well, thank you for turning out.
Well, yeah. And thank you, Gary, for being here. And thank you all so much for coming out. I do know that this is available on Blu-ray with
It is.
extra things that we showed the first screening, not on purpose. But physical media isn't dead. Go out and check it out. Thank you.
Yeah,
all
there's a
so
couple
much.
of extra short films
Yeah.
included in the Blu-ray that
Yeah.
I didn't screen today. And these t-shirts are available in the gift shop.
And these t-shirts are available online. All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you again, Gary.
Yeah.